Welcome to another episode of Life Distilled with MicroShiner.
Awesome.
I'm Brian, and I'm here with Timo and Ashby here in Sebastopol, Sonoma County, California. And
Welcome.
thank you. Thanks, guys.
We're excited to have you guys here.
No, cool, yeah. I've been here before, back when MicroShiner was a magazine. Came here and took some stills, did some stuff here, wrote a little piece. But I want to know more about your guys' story, why you started it, why are you here in Sebastopol, everything.
Sure.
It's fair enough.
We ask ourselves that every day.
Yes.
Just putting it out there.
Cool.
There's like two stories: the why Sebastopol and
why America in the first
and
place.
why America, why the distillery.
We met working on ships. We worked on different types of vessels, but icebreakers and commercial vessels, doing environmental research. That's how we met. We were both deckhands on ships, and when we decided to settle somewhere, when we got married, we picked San Francisco for no apparent reason other than it's a very cool town. It could have been anywhere in the world, really, but we picked San Francisco. And then once we'd been living there for a few years, we wanted to move a bit further out of town, and we were always in love with this area. You say Sonoma County, but it's West County to us, really.
Right.
It's a different feel out on this side of Sonoma County, and we love it out here. It's just, it's really nice. So.
And years ago, when we were living in San Francisco, we seemed to have a variety of people who would come up to us, and friends of ours would be like, you know where you would really love Sebastopol? And we were like, why?
It was bizarre.
Continuously,
actually.
We've had like random people tell us that we should be in Sebastopol way before we ever found it.
So we knew we were going to move out here, and we were looking for property out here, and we wanted to make the land work for us as well. And so back in the day, we had a pretty healthy obsession with gin, and so we were thinking that what we could do was maybe grow botanicals for gin and create our own brand of gin, hook up with a local distillery, and create our own brand of gin. And that was plan A. The more we looked into it, the more we got interested and fascinated on the distillation side of things. So we started hanging out at other distilleries and did as many courses as we can, which at the time were very, very limited around the country. Learned as much as we could, and then decided actually to make a bigger deal of the distilling side rather than the farming side.
So you set off just to make a gin.
Yeah, that's
And then
right.
you're like, why not ferment and do it all and have a whole line of spirits?
Well, as we got interested in distilling, most of the information out there was how to make whiskey.
Right. Okay, yeah, right, exactly. That's welcome to America.
So, in fact, the first product I ever did on a still was wheat whiskey, and so that we made on a still, and so so we knew that when we built our distillery, we wanted to make a very true classic, awesome gin. That's what we set out to do, but we also knew that we were going to be making other things along the way, like whiskey, and eventually we were going to maybe start playing with fruit as well and doing some brandies. But we also, as we learned how to distill, we learned how to do that from grain to glass.
Okay, yeah. So let's go. What is your whole lineup? What is your guys' portfolio? So, I mean,
Sure. So
gin.
from grain to glass, we make our own vodka here, which is also the base for our gin and the base for our slow gin.
Okay.
And then we make a barrel-aged gin and a wheat whiskey and a rye whiskey.
Okay.
And then we also do a very special barrel reserve slow gin. So a slow gin that's then rested in a barrel for a little while.
Now let's explain to the viewers what slow gin is. Most people think a slow gin is like one of those liqueurs that the grandmother has in her liquor cabinet. It's
I mean,
kind of rare.
we do
It's rare
say
to
it's not
find.
the stuff you had in high school.
Yeah, exactly.
The basics of traditional sloe gin is that there's this fruit that's called the sloe berry, SLOE, and it comes off the blackthorn bush, which in Europe, traditionally sloe gin is drunk much more often in Europe, and they grow them like these bushes, like fences or hedgerows around farms. And so once a year you get this little red fruit, which is a tiny relative of the plum. But on its own, it's pretty tart and astringent. And they wanted to do something with it, so they decided to add it to some gin that was around, add a little sugar, and then a year later went back and decanted it and discovered that they had created this amazing liqueur called sloe gin. Wow. And so this traditionally is drunk in the UK like a port at the end of dinner, and was something with the gin that we wanted to make. The sloe gin was also a passion that we wanted to bring a traditionally made sloe gin to the US market. Here, anything that you'll find outside of ours is a concentrated or syrup sort of version of it.
Okay.
So it's hard to find sloe berries in the US. In fact, they don't really exist here. So
Right.
that was the first major hurdle, and I think that's probably the reason why traditional sloe gin doesn't exist in that way in the US. So we have to import the berries from Europe, from Bulgaria.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It takes between a pound and 2 pounds of berries to make a bottle of sloe gin.
Oh,
So-
wow. Okay, so that's a lot of importing.
As Ashby was saying, it's a relative of the plum, so it's a stone fruit.
Okay.
So, and they're little, they look like blueberries.
Oh,
out
okay.
here. Yeah, if you imagine that. And so out here, so when you get the fruit, a lot of it is stone. You know? And you're trying to get as much of the flavor and color out of it as you can.
So yeah, it has big pits then,
there.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. Very cool.
And you got to treat those pits gently as well. They can impart like an almond flavor almost into the sloe gin.
Yeah, like a
which actually
nuttiness.
in Europe is a sought after. People try and find that in their sloe gin to such an extent that when they're making sloe gin, you can add all sorts of different spices and things to your sloe gin as well, botanicals. But in Europe, they'll add blanched almonds to their sloe gin to get that flavor as well. So it's not that people don't want it, but it comes mainly from the pits. We're very gentle in our production lineup with the sloes. We try and treat them very gently in the process.
That's very cool. Yeah, no, I mean, I've had your sloe gin. It's fantastic.
Thank you.
It is. It's really good.
Yeah, we really wanted to feature the berry itself because it is tart.
Right.
And that tartness is something you don't often find in liqueurs, which are always sweet.
Right.
So it was really nice to work with a fruit that starts on its own tart as opposed to sweet. So it was a really good combination as a way to bring in these two flavors together. And sloe gin, a lot of people don't know, it's actually its own definition in the TTB, in the actual definitions of standards. So you can have any liqueur out of any fruit, but then sloe gin itself is a very specific standard of identity.
Right. Okay.
So it's not. It's interesting because people will come in and say, "Why is this gin red?" And actually, it's not. It's not necessarily a gin. It's actually a liqueur. That's made with gin, if you see what I mean. That's the difference.
Yeah, no, I mean, like I said, I've had this before.
Yeah, it's delicious.
Fantastic. Super. I love the
So
nose.
in the US, we make it a little, so the style that we make is very British style, but we make it way less sweet than you would find in England. Because in England, we drink it neat like this after dinner, but here in the US, it's
I can see that, like a port. Like you said.
Yeah, like a
the
digestif kind of thing. It's really, if it's like a proper Sunday roast, dinner type thing, it's really hard to put the bottle down. It just keeps going.
Right.
You end up sitting there for hours on end, putting the world to rights. So it's...
But the cool thing we found with sloe gin in the US is that people are using it in a variety of really creative cocktails. And one of the easiest things to do is using it as a replacement for sweet vermouth. So like in a Negroni or Manhattan, it's incredible.
I can see that. I can see that.
Because it is more, to me, it's got that dynamic of the fruit balance with the citrus is in there too, because
it's really
it is the base for our gin. Yeah. So and then. And other people really love to do, instead of like a Cure Royale, you could do a little Slow Royale.
Right. Yeah.
Awesome.
No. I've had that. I had that at Zazu actually. Right
yeah,
up the road.
perfect.
Yeah. They do some cocktails up there.
Yeah,
No, that's
good
very
food.
cool.
That was when they moved their location to here. They put that cocktail on their menu, and now 5 years later, or however long it's been, it's the only one that's held through.
Right. Okay. No, that's
menu.
cool.
So
I mean, you come here, you're
it's
coming to the
nice
Barlow, you hang out, come taste some spirits, go over there, have some bacon and some cocktails.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Slow gin and bacon all in the same space.
Yeah. No, it's
And now
cool.
there's awesome cheese here and the wineries in between.
There's a cheese spot here now.
Yeah.
There's a British style cheesemaker
Oh, very
in
cool.
the Barlow. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
There's
Love
a lot
this.
happening right now in this area. It's
Yeah.
kind of cool. We're really glad to be here now for that.
No, it's
So,
cool. No,
it's
it's
kind
great.
of a destination in itself.
Yeah,
you know?
no, it's really expanding seeing it come up. I know, like, when it first opened, you guys were you were like the first people here, right? In the
Yeah,
Barlow?
there were a couple of us when they first started to build out. But yeah, we were here from the beginning.
Okay, no, very cool.
Yeah, it was sort of a mutual dream. The developer needed tenants, and we needed a dream of a place. So it worked out really well for us way back in the day.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and congratulations again for being best distillery in Sonoma County from the Bohemian,
Thank
Yeah.
you.
right? That's
Yeah, it's really flattering,
Yeah.
actually.
And then,
nice.
the Bohemian's special because it really is voter based. Like, this is totally just people out there who took the time to go online and click
Exactly.
boxes and type in who they want.
No,
and that's
it's-
just,
It's
so
a
we're
great
so
little
appreciative.
local magazine. It's cool. It's I know my some buddies of mine at Duke's in Healdsburg won Best Bar and Best Bartender.
Yeah,
I think is
Cappy
Cappy.
there.
Yeah, Cappy's a good guy. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I used to manage bars back in the day. Well, but Cappy was running the show at Spoon Bar at the
of course.
time, and he was doing a great job. And now it's fun to see where he's gone. So
Yeah, I know.
That's cool. All those people, the whole crew over there,
Yeah.
good people.
Yeah, they are lovely people.
Yeah.
We like them a lot.
I'm looking forward to going to the Duke's Common now for their staff meals.
Yeah. Chef Shane.
Yeah.
No, he does good stuff. I've been working with him and Nathan over at Chalkboard. I was working there, I was bartending there for a little bit, and then they moved over to Brass Rabbit and been doing stuff over there now. Now they're Duke's Common.
I mean, we talk a lot about these amazing places. We're so lucky here in Sonoma County. There is a huge variety of really amazing cocktail bars and people that respect the art of the cocktail in that way. And of course, the food out here is amazing and pretty incredible. So.
Right.
As you say, from here, all the things happening in Healdsburg that you're mentioning, that all the way down to Marin is pretty. We're very, very lucky where we're at. Picking a place to build Spiritworks Distillery. I mean, we love the area itself, but it's a huge advantage for us to be in this area because people do really appreciate that high-end quality cocktail food. They asking all the questions, where does it come from, who makes it, who owns it, like all these different things. But also, it's a huge draw for tourism here, obviously. And the people that come here and the people that want to come to this distillery and visit our tasting, we have a tasting room, which is open 5 days a week. And so when people do come here, they already have an appreciation for tasting alcohol. I know that that sounds pretty normal
exactly.
because we're
So much
surrounded
wine,
by it. But we complement each other's industries really well in this area. So it works really well.
Now, I remember, like I said, when I first came here, you guys were just aging your whiskey. It was still like just slow gin, and vodka.
Yeah. You were probably looking at some of the bottled and bond barrels back then.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, you guys just started that program. But you guys are like on the forefront for like the California like laws in terms of distilleries and being able to sell out of your tasting room and stuff like that. Because I know it was different back then, and since then laws have changed a lot. And I remember you guys had a big part
Yeah,
with that.
it was. We were really lucky. Well, when we first started, it was a law that we couldn't sell or but we could do free tastings. And so then Timo actually became the president of the California Distillers Guild in 2015.
Wow.
And
I did not know
you
that.
can talk about that a little bit more.
I should do my research more. But wow, that's awesome. Okay, continue. Sorry.
No, that's, I mean, and then that was a lot of the work that he did, was to try to get the law changed so that distilleries, craft distilleries in California could actually be able to sell some of their spirits from their space.
Yeah, so back, it's very flattering to say all those things, but really, I did go up to Sacramento often and got involved in discussions on strategically how we could get the law changed. But there are plenty of other people who were instrumental in making this change happen within the CADG, the California Distillers Guild.
Right.
Outside of the CADG as well, we worked with some people up in Sacramento as well to make that happen. And of course, local support from California Assembly members. Assemblymember Mark Levine was very strong supporter of ours during that time, and so
Very cool.
yeah, it really.
And it's a really good law to pass in a lot of ways, but one was really for the consumers. You know, as Timo was mentioning, this is a culture where people come to tasting rooms, and they're very used to trying something, liking it, and then being able to at least take a bottle home with them. And so it was something where, like, we want to be able to offer this to people. How can we figure this out? And,
No, definitely.
you know, so it's.
I mean, it's funny because you can go to wineries and just buy cases upon cases, but you know, you can't. You can buy a bottle. I mean,
spirits are just viewed in a different way than wine and beer. It's a very different perception of spirits.
And it's really tricky because I mean, the laws kind of it's almost like they, you know, put a damper on the business itself. Because I mean, I've visited so many distilleries across the nation, and one thing I'd visit, hang out at the distiller. Oh, sweet, where can I get a bottle? And then I'd have to like drive around to a liquor store, maybe one in the county that carries it, and because it's such, so small batch. And it's one of those things too, like having a rare whiskey or spirit on your shelf that's from another state is one of those things. It's very cool to have. It's one of those things you bust out when the family's over or something, like, hey, you gotta try this whiskey. It comes from this small farm in Florida, And it's really, now it's really hard because you can't get that all the time, I guess, is what I'm getting at. And now that laws are changing, it's going to be awesome. It's going to be cool. So
yeah. So when that law changed, 2016, it did several things. As Ashby was saying, it gives the consumer way more choice as well, and ability to complete an experience. And obviously, it's a great boon for craft distilleries in the state of California because it's another revenue stream, which we're all struggling in our competition with the larger manufacturers anyway.
Right.
But one of the really interesting sides to it, and it's the part that I think enjoy the most really, is that obviously in the state of California, it's a 3-tier system. And so our route to market means that whatever we manufacture here, we sell to a distributor, and then that distributor moves that product on to market. So for every single one of your products that you put out in market, it's quite a lot of work to work with your distributor to accept that product, register that product, and then offer it, and then having to sell it individually out in market to retailers or bars before it gets to the final destination, which is the client, the customer at the end of the day. So changing the law to be able to sell out of here has meant that we have been able to do really interesting experimental batches, and offer them directly to the customer in very small numbers. People that come and experience it here, we can teach them exactly what we've or tell them exactly what we've done to get that product into that bottle and into their hands, and then they can walk out of here with a bottle of that. And so us being able to experiment in that way has meant that we've made a couple of like really interesting liqueurs, some really interesting whiskeys, that are beginning just now to come to fruition and things.
Right,
So
cool.
it's really, really nice to do that.
And you guys get you source a lot of your grain locally, right? If I recall, or?
Sure. So the base for almost all of our products is the California red winter wheat, and that's grown out of the Sacramento Valley.
Oh, very cool.
And it's organic red winter wheat. It's a beautiful profile, and what you'll find is that using the same base for our vodka, gin, slow gin, and then the wheat whiskey is also made from this grain. There's a really beautiful sort of theme within our own spirits as well. Which is a palate sort of thing you can recognize with your palate, and then also there's a sweetness that runs through them, which is really nice to see.
That is cool. Yeah, that's great. Now, okay, I gotta ask. Okay, so the aging process. Okay, I know you guys do it in barrel, right? Can you maybe, well, first off, talk about like your aging process. Let's go into that. Mash bill, stuff like that for your wheat whiskey, and then I want to know more about that in terms of the time frame and everything like that as well. So,
I mean, our production of whiskey is pretty straightforward in terms. Right. As with everything else, we receive whole grain here, and then we mill, mash, and ferment everything in this space here right next to us, and then use the still to strip that alcohol out and to clean it. That whole process generally takes about a week from start to finish to end up with a distillate of the whiskeys. That whiskey we put into barrel, and the type of barrels that we use here pretty much across the board are it's American white oak, Quercus alba. They're full-size barrels as well, 53-gallon full-size barrels, and they are generally a full char, so char 4 or thereabouts. We are also using barrels now that are pre-toasted and then charred as well. So they go into barrel, and the style of whiskey that we always wanted to make was straight whiskeys. There is a obscure law in California that says in the state of California you can't sell a whiskey that's less than 3 years old. Unless it's a straight whiskey.
Right, okay.
Which is a 2-year-old whiskey.
Interesting, okay, yeah.
It's really an interesting law because I've never ever heard it being enforced anywhere.
Yeah.
The law is literally you can't sell whiskey, and so so it was for us. We wanted to make sure that whatever we did was following the letter of the law. So we aimed for a straight whiskey.
And that's also for our consumers. The word straight represents the exact amount of time that they know it's been in a barrel. So that's a minimum of 2 years.
So that's what we aim for. So maturation happened in those barrels for 2 years. For us, we expanded our space. We have a pretty sizable space behind the distillery here as part of the distillery, which is our barrel room.
Right.
And we rest our barrels in there. We don't temperature control it. We don't do anything with it. It works. Sebastopol is, we have that coastal fog that comes in the mornings in the summer, and it gets pretty hot here during the day in the summer. So, and then in the winter it gets chilly. I mean, it's not like the rest of the country, but
no,
it gets a little chilly. It's
Definitely.
March and I'm sitting here kind of in a t-shirt.
Yeah,
so,
exactly. No,
it's not too bad.
It's cool. It's great weather. It's like California, you can't beat it.
Yeah.
Kind of spoiled here. But I was walking around the barrel room and I noticed the iPods on the barrels.
Yeah.
Now I've heard a few things about this, but I gotta know what's.
So back in the day, we really wanted to experiment because we can. We're a craft distillery, and so there's so much that goes behind the action that goes on inside of a barrel between the whiskey and the wood, and we thought maybe we could excite that somehow. And one way that we thought would be a good idea is to play music to it, so that it was really literally like, shaking the liquid around a little bit, which then helps it like interact with the wood, and maybe we just thought we'd see what happens.
Yeah, the different vibrations. Maybe.
And so it's been a really fun experiment, and we released two of these barrels. So the barrels back there that you saw each have an iPod. Each of them are one batch of whiskey, which happens to create 2 barrels. So one is listening to music and one is the control. So it's the exact same batch.
Very cool.
And then from there, we went ahead and attached speakers to them. And Timo and I picked the first two types of music, and one was the Nutcracker, and one was bluegrass band Devil Makes Three.
Okay.
And then now there's a bunch more back there. As staff have been with us, they get to pick their music style and barrel. So there's like a Prince, Michael Jackson barrel back there.
Okay. Are you going to put that on the label? Like, this is the hip hop release? This is the Michael Jackson?
We do. We actually have a neck tag that says what style of music.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
I think there are copyright things to actually putting the name of the band.
Yeah, the TTB might not be okay with that.
TTB is probably fine with it.
Oh, yeah?
I'm
Okay.
going to say that the band's probably not.
True.
Without prior permission.
Yeah.
That would be kind of cool, though.
It would be
actually.
kind of cool.
Get a band on board.
So the band might think so.
Yeah.
The band managers.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
No, we just wanted to. It's a bit of fun, and so
absolutely.
We could do that out of the tasting room because going through a distributor, it kind of loses the story along the way. Whereas here, we could talk about it directly.
Yeah.
So there is some science behind the idea of agitating the liquid. We use sound waves for that. The science side of it. It is a bit of fun in the grand scheme of things, but the science behind it is kind of sound. Sound. See what I did there? And there are. I have heard of other instances of other distilleries that try and get the liquid inside a barrel to move around in different ways. I've heard of people maturing their whiskey on the back of a container ship, for example, because it's just constantly moving. Underwater, I've heard of that too. And so it was just a fun way of doing it. And at first we thought we were just going to do 1 barrel.
Right.
But then we kind of each picked a different style of music, and so we just thought, well, let's do that. And then staff added more and more. And it's been really interesting how doing something like that with a whiskey really resonates, pun intended, it really resonates with people that come and visit the distillery as well. There's a real interest in what style of music and why you picked that, and does it have any effect? Everyone's always very, very super curious.
No.
And we have a spirits club here. It's a pickup only spirits club, so that's quarterly. And for those pickups, we sometimes will release some of the barrels, and we'll do like a full. We did a full tasting when we released the first 2 that came out. So they had 4 spirits in front of them. One was music, one was the Nutcracker, one was Devil Makes Three, and then those 2 controls to do a blind tasting. Yeah. And it's fun to do just kind of those things for members that are around, and then we still do tastings for them sometimes in the actual tasting room. And another couple of barrels will come out soon.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
That is. No. Okay, now the bottled and bond. Now that whiskey, this straight rye. Now let's explain to the viewers what it means to be bottled and bond.
Yeah, so bottled and bond is this, what I think is a very cool definition, which created back in the day when the TTB finally ended up putting this in place, was really about quality and consistency. And so what they're looking for is that you have, of course, please pour some.
I'll have some, yeah.
I'm okay, thank you. And so you're looking for something that has been
Hey, I used to bartend.
Barreled for 4 years, has been bottled at 100 proof, has been distilled in the exact same distillery by the same distiller in the same season. So this was distilled by me in December of 2013, back in the day.
Right.
And now we get to try it. And then also you have to represent on your label a lot of those specific factors that they're putting into it.
Yeah.
It's something. Now it's an interesting turn in that I almost see it as a way for craft to show their quality, because the big guys can't achieve the type of, saying that it has to be one distiller in one season from one place. All of this sort of stuff means that it's actually humans involved.
Yeah. No,
you know,
that's
and
really neat.
That's really representative of what we want to present to our customers. Is like, yeah, this is totally hands-on. And the other thing is that there's no additions or subtractions. So you asked about our aging process before, and we absolutely have never used caramel coloring or you know, wood chips or anything like that. We're always 100% full-size 53-gallon charred barrels.
So to sum it up, bottle and bond means like no lies, like no BS.
Yeah, exactly.
That's pretty cool.
And
It tries to get there, for sure.
Yeah.
It's a good step in that direction.
No bullshit.
And for us as a craft distillery, it's a huge achievement for
Right.
us. It means that we made a whiskey 4 years ago, and we sat on it in barrel for all this time, and have finally been able to put it out in this way. So yeah, it's a really it's a huge achievement for us to get to that stage.
And it's quite heavenly.
We're
It
pretty
really
proud.
is
Thank you.
pretty awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it sits at 100 proof, which is nice as well.
Yeah.
Like it's spirit forward in that way, and so
yeah, our normal whiskeys we put out at 90, and so this is a little bump up. But then
Right.
we also sometimes put out some cask strength, so those are obviously a little higher. I like the 100 proof. I think it's a really nice place for this whiskey.
No, that's great.
It still really allows you to have the right nose and that palate at the end. Yeah, I get hints of like coffee and then toasted coconut in the middle, and the
Yeah.
end I find just very, very smooth.
Yeah, I know it's very clean. I like it. I've had your whole lineup, but the wheat I love because it's very light. It was lighter to me. It's kind of
Yeah.
like that's easy drinking. Like that's cool. This
Yeah, yeah.
This
very
is
approachable.
Yeah,
you say.
exactly.
Well, and that's
Yeah.
the fun of being fun, and part of the reason we do the grain to glass is exactly that's why we make a wheat. We make a rye vodka, or rye. Well, we do both. We make a wheat and rye whiskey as well, because just like bread, wheat is really sweet and approachable, and rye
Right.
bread is kind of like, all right, I'm diving in. Like
Yeah.
this is going to be kind of intense, but also super good. And so that variety really like literally our mash bills for the wheat and rye whiskey come down to they have different grains, of course, but then the mashing process, the actual yeast that we use, the fermentation, the aging, all of it's the same. So it's just showing you the difference between those grains.
That's awesome. That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it works really well. Like when we knew we were going to make a wheat whiskey because the source of our wheat was so awesome for the rest of our products. So that was a no-brainer. Also, it was the first product we learned to distill way back in the day.
Was the vodka? You started with the vodka?
No, I mean literally, it was
started
a
with
wheat
whiskey.
whiskey. Was
Okay.
the first thing we distilled,
Okay.
like way back in the day, and so that was good. But rye whiskey, we've this fascination with American traditional style of whiskey and bourbon, of course, high up there. We make a bourbon. It's not, it won't be ready yet for at least another year or so.
Okay. Yeah. What's your mash bill on that?
On the bourbon,
Yeah.
we actually make 3 different types of bourbon.
Okay.
Just because we have 3 different types. Just because at the beginning we were doing experiments with different mash bills in different directions that we want to go. So, of course, mostly corn, but then we have a wheated bourbon and we have a rye bourbon as well.
Oh, nice.
So we like the direction that both were going in, however long ago when we first started, after they'd been in barrel for a year. We kind of liked how they were both working out, and we thought at that point we would pick one that production would stick with, but it was hard to make the decision, so we just carried on making both, and I'm glad we have, because they're both beautiful beautiful examples of what a bourbon can be, and we're pretty proud of it in where it's at right now. So we can't wait to see what it's going to be like next year sometime.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, it's pretty thrilling. But having said that about bourbons, going back to rye, rye is such a traditional style of whiskey in America, and it's so I don't know. For me, it's as someone who's not from here. And when I came back to the States many years ago, rye was very authentic as an American style drink. And so, we always knew we were going to be making rye, and plenty of it in this space.
That's awesome. No, that's
Yeah,
great.
we're pretty pleased with how it's worked out.
So, I mean, this is kind of an interesting question. Like, so when you guys set off to start a distillery, like, what's your exit strategy? Or do you guys just want to grow, stay a craft brand, or do you maybe hope to get bought by, you know, Jack Daniels? I don't know. It's just, it's funny because it's like, you think about this, like a brewery, for instance, 101 North. They just recently, or was it, I'm sorry, somebody got bought up. I believe it was 101 North. I don't know, don't quote me on this. People are going to get, the comments are going to be interesting.
Things like that happen all the time.
But yeah, no, they get bought up, and then like, okay, what are you going to do now? And then to the head brewer, what are you going to do now? Well, I'm going to brew beer because that's what I love doing, you know? So it's like, that's the thing. Normally, like, when you start a business, your goal is to, how can you sell that business in the end, you know?
Yeah,
So
well,
it's like,
I mean, to us, a lot of people refer to them like as hobby distilleries or something, and that was absolutely not what, I mean, Timo and I are very hands-on, we're very physical people, and we wanted to create a company that we own, that we love, that we're proud of.
Right.
And that was the end game to us.
Okay.
You know,
Very
it was
cool.
it really, we were like, we see this, we were, you know, both coming into it in late 30s, early 40s, and like, we got many, many years left in us to keep this business going, and we're really happy with it that way.
oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I think Endgame from a business point of view is really interesting. As a craft distillery, we still consider ourselves to be very nascent. I mean, we are newbies here still. We've been distilling this summer. We will have had product out in market for 5 years, and it sounds like a long time. It feels like a long time, but it's very short time in the grand scheme of things for a business like this. And so we're still working on getting to that place that we wanted to arrive at.
Right.
That we thought we'd get to within a year, kind of thing. We're still working hard on our sales. We're still working hard on our brand out in market. We're pretty proud. We just got awarded the essentially best in show for branding and packaging at the ADI, at the American Distilling Institute. That just happened this week.
How was that? How was that conference?
It was good.
Yeah?
I had 2,300 attendees.
Wow.
Showed up to it this year. It was...
Yeah, it's a great representation of, you know, it's such a good place for small craft distilleries to really get to know each other and have those conversations that you just won't have anywhere else, you know, being from all over the world, or all over the U.S., I guess, most of them are.
Yeah, no. I had the chance to attend last year in Baltimore, and that was a great time. Yeah, it was. I even attended the ADI's, the tasting, or the judging, I guess. They had that. Yeah. And Lauren was there, right? Yeah, she was there. She was one of the judges. Yeah, that's cool.
So Lauren is our head distiller, of course. She joined us at the beginning as well.
Right.
Actually in the tasting room. She managed the tasting room, but she made herself pretty invaluable in production during that time as well, which was apparently always her intention.
Right.
And Ashby was our head distiller, of course, right at the beginning. And so she started apprenticing under Ashby. And then about a year and a half ago, we asked her to be our production manager, because she's kind of that way of thinking. And her skills at the still pretty amazing, and she'd been distilling in her own right in this space for a while by then. And then in January, she was made head distiller.
Right on.
And Ashby has moved more into
January 2017.
17.
Very cool.
Yeah, so I'm way off. So I'm like, this is 2 years ago that happened.
Okay.
And so she became head distiller, and so for the past year, it's meant that Ashby's been able to focus a lot more on our brand and PR, which has obviously paid off. We just won an award for it at ADI.
Yeah, okay.
That award.
So what
that's
awards
all
did you
Ashby's
win?
work.
So what was like the scape of things?
I think we won 3 medals.
So we won 3
spirits.
medals for spirits. We had submitted our rye whiskey finished in sherry barrels, and then we submitted our barrel gin and our barrel reserve slow gin, and those all won medals, and then
And then we won one medal for packaging,
Okay.
which was called best back bottle on the back bar or something, for this bottle.
Okay. Well, that's
Which
batch
is
number
int-
one.
Yeah, we only made one. It's a rye vodka. All our vodka is made with wheat.
Okay.
But
and
it's
that's the rye
interesting because
vodka.
this label is very similar, of course, to every other label
Right.
that we make.
I
It's the
think
same
they got
style.
really into the slide thing.
Yeah, we also.
Oh, yeah, that is rad.
It was a specialized project as well, and so we differentiated it in that way. But then.
But then they have an excellence in packaging, and that one we won as a brand for brand identity.
Okay.
Which was great, as the. That was really great for us, and so that's what I'm saying. That was Ashley's work. But then, Lauren, of course, being head distiller here for a while and distilling in her own right, she's been judging at ADI now for a couple of years, which has been really good. And actually, this year she did a few things. She was teaching a gin workshop up there.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And doing the gin summit.
Yeah,
and
the
things
gin
like
summit.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's great. And she now has her own apprentice as well, a guy called Schaefer, who's here,
Okay.
who's awesome as well. That way of thinking, it's
Yeah.
very, it's a very.
And he's one of the rare dudes that work here, right?
Rare-
I mean,
Are
We
we rare
rarely let
dudes?
them in.
yeah, I mean, you know, I mean, I love that. I mean, it's mostly predominant female staff, and that's refreshing to see, especially in the distilling world. It's very, male-driven guys in plaid
and
shirts.
we by absolutely no means like purposely
Yeah,
did this.
no, exactly.
You know what I mean?
I
But
get it.
yeah, we just hire the right people,
I
and
Absolutely. I mean, guys like me want to come taste here. You know,
and we're
hey.
so small. We have 5 or 6 staff right now, and that's just
Right.
so important. The people that you work with, and
Yeah.
we all mesh, work hard. If there's so few of us, we all represent a huge part of the work that we do for the company.
Yeah.
As Ashley was saying, everyone that we've ever hired here, we've hired because they're right for the job.
Right.
And it just so happens that that's been the breakdown in terms of demographic of people who wanted to work with us as well. Like it's interesting, that dynamic of who approaches us
Right.
when you open up a position out there. So that's kind of how it's worked out, and it just so happens that therefore our production team has always been female run actually, or female strong, and so and it is unusual. You're right, and so people tend to point that out a fair
Unusual, but,
Yeah.
but growing more
great.
and more these days. You
Yeah.
know, there's more and more women for sure in the industry, and even distillers.
Yeah.
And I mean, a lot of it is that this industry is completely open to women having the same skills as men in this
Right.
industry, which is nice. So I feel like it's actually really welcoming in that there isn't like a preemptive sort of bias or anything that any man would have
Right.
approaching our spirits. Like they expect it to be as good as anything, if not better.
Right. So when you first started distilling, I gotta ask this because, people who start off to distill, like say you're a brewer, right? You make beer, you can home brew. You can start off doing that.
Yeah, you're allowed to do that.
Yeah, you're allowed to do that. You're allowed to make wine, and then like, wow, I make some pretty good stuff on my own. Maybe I should open a winery. Now you can't really distill, or did you guys do that? Like, did you guys distill?
We
prior?
honestly didn't.
No, you learned how to ferment.
We were by the time we had decided that this is what we wanted to do, we were so concerned about doing it properly that messing up by doing something like that, which is actually illegal, was not an interest
I mean,
of
it's
ours.
a felony to distill at home.
Yeah.
So
in
it
the
was
US.
literally no. That's
crazy.
why we were going around to so many distilleries and going to classes and doing everything that we could, because we also understood that the translation between a quality product that goes out to market versus something that you may have created in your basement is going to be very different.
Right.
And we really wanted something that was going to be out in market and well represented and respected.
We were able to experiment a lot with fermentation.
Okay.
Actually, so
Right.
we built a little homebrew space in our basement, and and Ashby experimented a lot with different fermentations and made a bunch of homebrews at home. And that side of things was really, really helpful to understand fermentation results as well through that process. And it's funny because we did have a lot of interest. We had density meters back in the day, and like all these, like we were able to learn a lot about Brix readings and how to do certain things in the lab before we ended up even visiting our first distillery even. And so doing that side of it was very, very useful to us.
And we also did a lot of slow gin development, so not necessarily the distillation, but how much berries to use per bottle, different pressing processes, different types of sweetener that we could add. And so there was a lot of work that we could do that wasn't directly to do with distillation.
Yeah.
And then once we had our space and everything was in place, I think it was our 26th recipe of gin that was actually what we decided to move forward with. So that means 26 full mashes,
I remember that,
distillations, everything to get to the point for the right gin. So we by no means started here and then just put something out the door. We had the time to really.
No, I remember you guys talking about that when I was here years ago.
Yeah.
And if I recall, you guys do use fresh lemon peel, stuff like that as well. Yeah. Just remember.
Yeah, there's some hand zesting that goes into our gin process, and it only takes like an hour, so it's not the end of the world. What we found is that red winter wheat, which makes our vodka so beautiful and so round, that we really wanted a bright gin, and so we were just looking at different ways to brighten that spirit, and the citrus really came through when you hand zest it. And it's fresh, and it makes the whole distillery smell delicious.
That's awesome. Can I try the rye vodka?
Of course, please.
Okay, sweet. Yeah, I'm yet to see this limited release, and then.
Yeah.
So that's a very good example of a product that we can make a limited run of, and just put it out in the tasting room. That sticker around the neck, it says tasting room exclusive, because it's just out of this space. So it doesn't go to our distributor. It doesn't go out in market in that way.
That's good. But okay.
So the reason why we made it as well is everything here is a process for us. So for example, the normal vodka that we make is a wheat vodka, and the reason why we make wheat vodka is because we want to create a base for our gin. We're grain to glass, which means we don't buy any alcohol, so we make our own alcohol here. So we make the vodka out of wheat. That's the base for our gin. We make the gin. The gin can either be a bottle or whatever, and so wheat is the general base. But there is a product we may make down the line called an aquavit.
Yeah.
And
it's the clear fruit brandy.
Actually, it's not a brandy. It's grain based, and they often use rye as a base for an aquavit. It's really interesting. It's kind of made in the same way.
The definition of an aquavit has dill or caraway as a predominant flavor.
Oh, that's right. Okay, I'm confusing that.
They make it in a similar way that they're going to make gin, and as Ashby says, there's always caraway in there, dill sometimes, and a whole variety. There's just like gin. There's a million ways of making it. People will argue, depending whether they're from Sweden, Norway, Denmark, depending where they're from, as to the right way of making aquavit. But in order to make it, we thought we would. Lauren is very keen on this project as well, and she was very keen to make a rye base, to use rye as the base for an aquavit. That's why we made it.
Yeah.
And
it's crazy good. That's really good vodka.
And what's also fun, this whole grain to glass thing, is then you can try our wheat vodka right next to our rye vodka.
Yeah.
And be like, oh, now again, just like our wheat and rye, it's the same yeast, the same fermentation process, same distillation.
This is the original?
He's doing it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try this.
And so all you're dealing with is the difference in the grain, and that just makes such a beautiful difference to really be able to compare those two. I love that. I love that part of it for our tasting room, to have the wheat and the rye vodka and the wheat and the rye whiskey.
We're very lucky I mean, very lucky. This is how we designed it, but we're very fortunate, I should say.
We were thinking about it back then.
To have this beautiful 21 plate rectification column.
Right.
And so that's what allows us to make this whiskey as clean as you're tasting it right now. Every space that we went into back in the day, we'd come in with one of those laser measuring things. We put it on the floor, measure the roof, and we're like, nope, won't fit. And we just leave until we found this spot. It's just, that column is 26 foot high off the ground. And the top of the roof right there is 29 foot. So it's pretty close.
That's cool.
Yeah,
Well, tasting the two
love
vodkas side by side, yes. So this one is the wheat.
That's wheat.
And then the other
100%
one,
wheat.
yeah, then this guy.
100% rye.
And this guy's rye. No, the rye, I love the body on the rye. It's way, there's so much more body happening. It's more round, very soft. And then this one is definitely more your clean, almost, I don't want to say stereotypical, but it's, again, it's still body there. It's great.
Yeah, vodka, again, you're
sweet.
tasting them out of context. If you put them next to some other vodka, a few more,
exactly.
what you would consider to be commercial vodkas in some way, they definitely have a lot more character, which isn't, it's different things that people are searching for in different ways, right? Some people want it to be absolutely neutral and clean,
right?
And that's what they're looking for.
Yeah, and TTB
and there are some great examples of that.
Is neutral. It's neutral, right? Like, what is TTB's definition of vodka?
It's just a colorless, flavorless
And
liquid
distilled
out
to
there.
190 proof.
Yeah,
distilled
super high. And
Yeah,
then that's where
and
flavor
so we
profile
distill it
falls
super
on.
high,
Yeah.
and that's where, and there is always going to be some flavor in the background. And for us, we like that character. We
Right.
like that body and that character in the background.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Anything else you guys want to add about your spot here? I mean, I'm gonna plug you guys. Hey, come to Spirit Works. It's a great
We
spot.
got a tasting room.
The tasting room. You can see people back there tasting right now.
Yeah, they're going at it already.
I have to go get model releases.
You know, we have
But
15 minutes past 11.
right?
That's important.
No, but that.
No, but I mean, we really appreciate you guys coming in
definitely.
and taking the time. And yeah, we're here. We're going strong. We're not going anywhere.
Yeah, we're very proud of what we've built here and where we're at in the space that we have. It's really important. We're a very small team of people, and we are very fortunate because the company is nothing but the team within it, and everyone we have working at Spirit Works right now is pretty amazing in their own right, and respected in their own right in what they do as well. And so we're very lucky in that way. I have to give a big shout out to all of them. We are visitor friendly as a space, so I would urge people to come and see us. Our tasting room is very knowledgeable folk in the tasting room who, and you can see the tasting room looks out over the space as well.
Right.
So there's a lot of access to us in this space.
Yeah.
Yeah, our whole
that's the main
philosophy
thing I
was
would talk about.
was all about transparency, and so having this tasting room to see right into production, doing everything from grain to glass, it's all about this is exactly who we are and what we do.
Very cool. Excellent. Well, I'll be back to taste the Michael Jackson whiskey.
Awesome.
Or-
I believe that.
Cool.
It's funny how people are like, I want to taste that
Yeah.
barrel. Like,
Yeah,
put me
exactly.
on your newsletter for that barrel.
Definitely. No, this is fun. It's cool.
It's funny.
Well,
Great.
Well, cheers. Thanks,
Yeah.
guys.
Cheers.
Cheers, dude.
Thank you,
Definitely.
man.
Thanks
Yeah,
for the
yeah,
whiskey.
yeah.
That's awesome,
Yeah.
too. Excellent.